Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Tony Ferguson, also in his lunch media scrum that we discussed in the previous video, said that George St. Pierre is the money fight that interests him the most. And this is interesting because Tony Ferguson came into the UFC at welterweight, fought on the Ultimate Fighter, won the he submitted or knocked out. He finished everybody in the season and then won the Ultimate Fighter. So at 170 pounds, he's got the frame of a 170 pounder, and that's another thing I forgot to mention in that video. He said, you know, everyone calls Khabib the Eagle, but I got the wingspan. I got the wings on my back, actually. So, yo, I'm telling y'all, Tony Ferguson almost convinced me in that fight. But it is what it is. Let's get back to him wanting to fight GSP. He said, you know, a lot of people were asking about the Conor money fight. You would expect lightweights money fights. They're talking about Conor McGregor. But he said, yo, when I got into this, I was more, you know, GSP was the fight. I came into this at 170. GSP, I feel like, is more of an athlete. Conor McGregor, you know, he talked about using the game genie and the trash talk. Of course, people would fight Conor McGregor for 20 million, however much money you get fighting Conor McGregor. But also, GSP is a much more respected fighter. And if you consider when he came into the fight, Tony Ferguson, when he came into the UFC at welterweight, he probably had his mind set on GSP. Conor McGregor, who the fuck was that guy whenever Tony Ferguson was in the Ultimate Fighter? Nobody knew who Conor McGregor was at that time. So, but GSP was at the top of the game. He was at welterweight. Hey, I got my eyes on GSP, so that makes sense. But he said this in the lunch media scrum. Tony Ferguson said, I mean GSP, literally. If he wants the money fight, he's an athlete. We all have to pay our bills. We all have to pay our taxes straight up. That's what I signed up for in the beginning. I was 170 pounds. 155 was forced on me. I mean, that forced the move. Ultimate reality. Then that's not the end result. 170 pounds, where I had 12 fights. Essentially saying, yeah, what I just explained before. I came in at 170. My eye was on GSP. He's an athlete. Of course, I would like a money fight. And if it's not going to be Conor McGregor, give me GSP. I'm not, just because I'm not begging for a money fight doesn't mean I won't take one. We got to pay our taxes. Taxes are real out here. Pay your taxes. You know what I'm saying? So that's interesting. Also interesting because we've seen GSP skinnier than ever in some of his recent picks. We've heard talks of GSP versus Conor McGregor at 165 pounds for the inaugural 165-pound title if the UFC opens up that division. But if Conor McGregor's fighting Floyd Mayweather or somebody else, Paulie McDougal's, if Conor McGregor still spending his money, if Conor McGregor doesn't want to fight, what if Tony Ferguson happens to beat Khabib? It's not unlikely. To me, that fight's a pick'em. I told you guys, that fight's a pick'em. I don't care what the odds say. Khabib's never faced anybody like Tony Ferguson. Even though I picked Khabib to win and I'm still edging Khabib out, I'm edging him out. I'm not saying, yo, Khabib's about to dominate him. 30% Khabib can dominate Tony Ferguson. I'm not saying that. Khabib's going to have to show up at 100% and still Tony Ferguson El Kakui is a motherfucker. That's what I'm saying. So you got to be careful in there. And with that being said, if Tony Ferguson does win, you got to put some respect on his name. That'll be an 11-fight winning streak, undisputed lightweight champion, and maybe he wants to go up and fight for another title. He's fought at 170 before, and if GSP, you know, wants a money fight, hey, El Kakui's ready. Now, I don't think GSP would take it when you're talking about stock market. I'm sure Tony Ferguson will take the fight. I just don't think it's very realistic as far as GSP is concerned because, for one, if Tony Ferguson beats Khabib, we'll see what he can do to a dominant wrestler, even though GSP will have a bit better size advantage and it'll be like, okay, you got through Khabib, now can you get through GSP? But when you start talking about reality, GSP was a worry of concussions and stuff like that. You're talking about the styles make the style of this fight. If GSP were to take Tony Ferguson down, Tony Ferguson would be trying to give him a concussion from the fucking bottom like Michael Bisping did, and you know, UFC 217 Madison Square Garden. GSP was getting dinged up from Michael Bisping. Tony Ferguson probably influenced Michael Bisping a little bit because he used that exact same move versus Kevin Lee and for the interim title. So, and not to mention the stock market. Tony Ferguson's not the biggest name. He's not a household name. If he beats Khabib, I think a lot of people are going to put respect on his name, but I fear, kind of like Amanda Nunes versus Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes, just because she beat Ronda Rousey, remember what Joe Rogan was talking about, like, all the promotion is on Ronda Rousey, it seems like. So even when Amanda Nunes won, no one really knew her name. You know, us MMA fans, hardcore MMA fans, we know about Tony Ferguson. The people that watch that lunch scrum, they really know Tony Ferguson. But everybody else, they're looking at Khabib as the mauler. Conor versus Khabib in Russia. So if Tony Ferguson manages to pull off the submission, or whatever way he manages, if he can pull off the win versus Khabib, his stock's not going to be high enough for GSP to come back and say, move over Conor, move over Tyron. I want Tony Ferguson. Maybe, you know, if you factor in the style matchup, I don't know. But all I'm saying is I don't think this is a big fight that's going to happen, but it is one that is realistic as far as Tony Ferguson could move up to welterweight. He could be a champion that fights at 165, and you know, it would be a great style matchup. This is going to but we'll see a lot of this in Khabib versus Ferguson. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G.